Hi, fans of high quality entertainment. Time for another tier list ranking. So, this one is for guitarists. And on Tier Maker, and there's a tutorial I just recently posted if you want to know how to do all of this. They have some pre done ones. And so they had one for guitarist. I don't know all of the guitarists on this list. Plus, I've added, I think, three that weren't included. But I thought I would just rank the ones that, I'm familiar with. And so for me, as normal, S is superior, it's the best, then A, B, C, D. And so when I'm ranking them, I'm not saying one is better than the other. It's just, they're my favorite guitarist. I feel they're a great guitarist, but, you might disagree. So here we go, in no particular order. And I have most of the ones I know at the top here. And then there's other ones, I've heard of, might have even heard a little bit of their music, but just not enough to rank them. B.B. King, Peter Green of Fleetwood Mac, Buddy Guy, Ry Cooder, Tom Verlaine, even Jerry Garcia of the Grateful Dead. I haven't heard a lot of his guitar work. John Lee Hooker, Curtis Mayfield. Definitely all really good or great guitarists, though. So here we go. And there's no E because, all of these are at least pretty decent guitarists. So Jimi Hendrix is S tier. Pete Townsend of The Who, he's pretty good. I'll put him in B, at the start of B. Lindsey Buckingham, I feel, is S tier. Mick Mars of Motley Crue, I'm not a fan of Motley Crue at all, but, what I've heard of Motley Crue and live footage, he is an excellent guitarist. And I'll put him in B, just before Pete Townsend. Tony Iommi of Black Sabbath is got to be S tier for all of his great guitar riffs to begin with, and then he's just a great guitarist. John McLaughlin, he is an amazing guitarist. I'll put him just before Jimi Hendrix. Ted Nugent, I'm not a fan of Ted Nugent, personality-wise, but as a guitarist, especially in the early 70s or the late 60s with the Amboy Dukes, he's got to be in A. Very good guitarist. Roy Clark. The footage I've seen of him, he is just amazing. I'll have him ahead of Lindsey Buckingham. Just put in, if you've never seen his guitar playing, just put in Roy Clark and you'll see some amazing guitar playing. Hank Williams, I love his music, but I don't know him as a guitarist. Now, I added Paul McCartney. Now, of course, he mainly plays bass, but he's played lead guitar many times, especially, even with the Beatles, with Taxman and some other songs. And in his solo career, he is an excellent guitarist. I'm going to put him in A, ahead of Ted Nugent. Now, this is one I added, so there's no name there, but that's Buck Dharma of Blue Oyster Cult. I feel he's probably one of the most underrated guitarists in music. I'm going to put him in S tier, just before Lindsey Buckingham. Boom, Dylan. From what I've heard, I'll put him in C. Lou Reed, some people feel he's not a very good guitarist and others really like his guitar work. For me, once again, he's just one of my favorite guitarists, and I'm going to put him in A, just before Paul McCartney. James Hetfield, He's a good guitarist. I'll put him in B right there. And, maybe James Hetfield is a better guitarist than Pete Townsend. But like I said, Pete Townsend, I know I've heard more of his work, and plus I really like him. George Harrison, I will put him in A, ahead of Paul McCartney. Joe Perry, Aerosmith, good guitarist. I'll put him in B. Nancy, excuse me, Nancy Wilson of Heart. I'm not a big fan of Heart, but she definitely can play the guitar. I'll put her in B. Just before Mick Mars. There's Steve Howe from Yes. He is S tier. I'm going to put him... Yeah, I'll put him ahead of John McLaughlin. I think John McLaughlin is a better guitarist, technically and everything. But Steve Howe is more of a favorite of mine. But I can't put Steve Howe ahead of Jimi Hendrix. I just can't. All right. Peter Frampton. He is an excellent guitarist. I'll put him ahead of George Harrison. Bo Diddley, from what I've heard, not too much, but very good guitarist. I'll put him right there. Johnny Marr of the Smiths. I like his guitar work. Some might put him in S or A. I'll put him right there. Dave Davies of the Kinks. He's in A tier. Probably right there ahead of Lou Reed. Angus Young. He's almost S tier. He's great. Seen lots of live footage of him playing the guitar. I can't put him ahead of George Harrison, though. I can't. And remember, all of these guitarists are great, Joe Walsh of the Eagles, he's great. I'll put him ahead of Dave Davies. Don't know Nile Rodgers enough. Robbie Krieger of The Doors is A. Love his guitar work. Bruce Springsteen, I don't know about his guitar playing. Billy Gibbons of ZZ Top. He's excellent. I'll put him ahead of Angus Young. Alex Lifeson of Rush is S tier. I'll put him just ahead of Roy Clark. Johnny Ramone of Ramones. I'll put him in B. Right there. Mick Taylor of the Rolling Stones is A. I know some would put him in S tier. Right there. Johnny Winter is in A. Just before Angus Young. Robbie Robertson from the band, and Bob Dylan. Right there. Ace Frehley. I'm not a big Kiss fan, but I love his guitar work. I'll put him in A. I'll put him after. I like him more than Ted Nugent. Slash. I think Slash is kind of overrated. I'll put him in B. At the end of B. Mick Ronson of David Bowie in his solo career. He's got to be S tier. I'll put him at the end of the S tier. Stephen Stills. Once again, uh, just seeing live footage of him. He's S tier. He can play the guitar. Just before Buck Dharma. Kurt Cobain, Nirvana. I'll put him in C, the start of C. Brian May of Queen, I feel, is S tier. Right there with Alex Lifeson. Just ahead of Alex Lifeson. Johnny Greenwood of Radiohead is S tier. Just before Alex Lifeson. Eric Clapton, I know people would put him in S tier. Just for me personally, I'll put him in A. Right there beside George Harrison. Paul Simon, he's got to be at least an A. Right there. Joni Mitchell, I think she's S tier. Right before Stephen Stills. Chuck Berry, not a fan of him, but of course he's one of the greats. So, for his influence and everything, he's got to be an S tier. Right there. David Gilmour of Pink Floyd is S tier. I know some people would put him right near the beginning with Jimi Hendrix, but I just have other favorites, so I'll put him before Johnny Greenwood. Keith Richards, Rolling Stones, he's got to be an A. Right there with Mick Taylor. Rory Gallagher. I think he's S tier. Robert Fripp of King Crimson, he's got to be S tier. Now, I think he's a better guitarist than Robert Fripp, but like I'm saying, these are more my favorites than a best of. So, just before Buck Dharma. For me personally, I love Buck Dharma's guitar work more than Robert Fripp's. Frank Zappa is S tier. Just before, I'm going to put him ahead of John McLaughlin because I just know a lot more of Frank Zappa's guitar work. The Edge of U2, I think he's really good. I'll put him in A. Just before Paul Simon. How am I doing so far? I'm sure I'll hear some or see some comments. But everybody's got their own opinions, right? Neil Young, some people don't think he's a great guitarist or he's messy. I love his guitar work. I'll put him just before Eric Clapton. Jeff Beck, he's got to be S tier, ahead of Steve Howe. I think he's kind of tied with Jimi Hendrix as one of the greats. Richie Blackmore from Deep Purple, he's got to be S tier, especially in the Deep Purple era. Ahead of Johnny Greenwood, right there. John Lennon, I love John Lennon's, of course, his great rhythm guitar work in the Beatles and lead guitar work. I'm going to put him in A. I'll put him at the end of A. Steve Jones of the Sex Pistols, very good guitarist. I think Mick Mars is better, so I'll put him there. Jimmy Page is, once again, S tier. Just before David Gilmour. So I think I'm almost done here. Prince, S tier. He's got to be near the front. Yeah. Right there. Eddie Van Halen. I know people would put him in S tier. I guess I will, but he's just not one of my favorite. I wasn't a big fan of Van Halen. I'll put him just before Robert Fripp. I like Mark Knopfler's guitar work. Some would put him in S tier. I'll put him in A. Just before Paul Simon. And then some of these others. Mark Bolan. I'll put him in B. Just before Nancy Wilson. And like I said, some of these others, like Randy Rhoads, I never really followed Ozzy's solo career, but I do know he was a great guitarist. Don't think I know any of these. Paul Stanley. Peter Buck of REM, very good guitarist. I'll put him in B. Ahead of Johnny Ramone. Richie Sambora of Bon Jovi. I'm not a fan of Bon Jovi at all, but he is a very good guitarist. I'll put him ahead of Joe Perry. Steve Stevens of Billy Idol. I just know some of Billy Idol's work. Bruce Springsteen, I just think of him, for his vocals and songwriting, but not as a guitarist. Derek Trucks, I know he is a great guitarist, but I don't really listen to the music. And then, there's greats like Chet Atkins, but I just don't want to rank them unless I really know their work. I think I'm done. And so if there's any great guitarist missing, there's bound to be. I apologize, but this is just it's fun to do and rank some of the guitarists. So there's nobody in D and just 2 in C. So there you go. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 16, 17, 18, 19, 21, 23 guitarists in S tier for me. And I would love your thoughts. Who's missing on this list and where would you put them? Who are some of your favorite guitarists that aren't on this tier list? Let me know. And who do you think I've ranked too low or too high? I'm bound to hear it. But just remember, these are just my favorites from, what I've heard. Thanks for watching. Have a great day.